was a boy who grew up in a village where no one dared to dream, the kind of place where if you said you wanted to become something more, people would laugh, not because they were cruel, but because they were conditioned to survive, not to succeed. This boy had nothing. No name that opened doors, no riches to rely on, and no special talents that the world could easily recognize. But he had one thing most people never develop in a lifetime: a mind trained to see beyond the obvious. He watched how people reacted to problems. Some ran, some fought blindly, but he studied, he asked, why did this happen? What's the real game here? What's the outcome they are not seeing? While others panicked in the storm, he quietly learned how to read the weather. Not just outside, but in people, in life, in systems. He mastered the art of strategic thinking. What most people called luck, he called preparation. What they called failure, he saw as redirection. While his friends chased quick wins and instant validation, he was laying brick upon brick, building in silence. And one day, when the tide turned, and it always does, he wasn't just ready, he was positioned. See, life doesn't reward the loudest, it rewards the most calculated. The ones who don't just react to challenges, but anticipate them. The ones who study patterns while others are chasing applause. The ones who know that every obstacle is a message, every delay is a setup, and every rejection is a reroute to something greater. You're not losing because you're not good enough. You're stuck because you haven't learned to think strategically. It's not about being faster, it's about being sharper. And the moment you shift from emotion to strategy, from panic to planning, the game changes. Not because life becomes easier, but because you become wiser. You stop fighting battles that don't matter. You stop solving problems that don't belong to you, and you start positioning yourself to win big and on your terms. Because the future doesn't belong to the strongest, it belongs to the most strategic. He was always the quiet one in the room, not because he had nothing to say, but because he had learned early that the loudest person rarely understands what's really happening. While others jumped into action, rushed into decisions, or exploded in frustration, he waited, not passively, but wisely. He observed, he listened, he paid attention to what people missed when they were too busy reacting. One day, someone asked him, "Why don't you ever panic like the rest of us?" He smiled and said, "Because I've already seen this storm before it arrived." That's the difference. Strategic thinkers don't react, they anticipate. Life is not random. Challenges, setbacks, even chaos, they follow patterns. But most people are too busy feeling to notice, too caught up in the pressure to pause and read what's really going on beneath the surface. Emotions flare, tempers rise, and the moment demands a quick decision. And that's when mistakes are made, not because people are incapable, but because they're impulsive. The truth is, reacting feels good. It gives a false sense of control. But what it actually does is rob you of clarity. It throws you into a loop of fixing symptoms instead of solving root causes. And when you're constantly reacting, you're always a step behind, chasing problems instead of outsmarting them. But anticipation is a superpower. It's the skill of reading a room before you speak. It's the patience to watch how a decision unfolds before you make your own. It's the discipline to prepare while others are pretending. Strategic thinkers see what others don't because they're not emotionally hijacked by the moment. They've trained themselves to look beyond what's loud and obvious. They know how to ask, the hard questions. Why now? What's the real motive? What's the long game here? This is like chess. The average player makes a move. The master sees 5 moves ahead. The difference isn't talent, it's thinking. It's restraint. It's understanding that timing is as important as action. You don't win by moving first. You win by moving right. Imagine this. 2 people face the same crisis. One reacts, panics, rushes, tries to fix it immediately. The other pauses, gathers information, analyzes the dynamics, then responds with precision. A few days pass, and the first is exhausted, buried in more problems they created. The second, calm, in control. Ahead, that's what anticipation does. It gives you power, silent power. The kind that doesn't show up in noise, but in outcomes. The kind that doesn't need to impress anyone, but leaves people wondering, how did they see that coming? Strategic thinkers don't need to be in every conversation. They don't need to prove their point. They're not addicted to urgency. They understand that every reaction is a choice. And every choice is either weakening or strengthening your position. So the next time life pushes you, before you rush to push back, stop, breathe, look deeper. Ask yourself, what am I not seeing yet? What's the play behind the pressure? Because when you learn to anticipate instead of react, you move from survival to strategy. And that's when life stops happening to you and starts happening for you. Most people look at a problem and see only the mess, the frustration, the disappointment, the interruption to their plans. They say, why me? Or not again, as if life has singled them out. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Challenges don't show up to break you. They show up to reveal something you didn't know you had, something sleeping inside you, something the comfort zone will never introduce you to. Every challenge is a coded opportunity, but you only see that when you stop staring at the surface and start decoding the message. The problem isn't always the problem. Sometimes the problem is the disguised opportunity wears when it doesn't want to be recognized by the average thinker. When you're trained to think strategically, you stop asking emotional questions like, why is this happening to me? And start asking intentional ones like, what is this trying to teach me? That shift alone will change the direction of your life. Because let's be honest, some of your greatest lessons didn't come from success. They came from struggle, from moments you thought would destroy you, but instead defined you, from failures that forced you to grow muscles you didn't know you had, from doors that closed only to push you toward the one that was actually meant for you. But here's the catch. Most people miss the opportunity in the challenge because they're too busy escaping the discomfort. They want out. They want it over. They want the pain gone. But what if the pain isn't punishment? What if it's permission to think differently, to act courageously, to finally break a cycle that's kept you small for too long? The obstacle in front of you is not just a block. It's a blueprint. It's showing you something about your environment, your decisions, your preparation, or your lack of it. And if you dare to lean into it, not just emotionally, but strategically, you'll start seeing what others miss. Some of the greatest ideas, breakthroughs, and life pivots came from people who looked at chaos and said, there has to be a way through this, and I'm going to find it. Not because they were stronger, but because they were willing to think differently. They weren't afraid of the problem. They were curious about it. What if every challenge that showed up in your life wasn't an interruption, but an invitation? An invitation to level up, to sharpen your thinking, to build resilience, to prepare for something greater than where you are. Life doesn't waste energy. It doesn't send challenges just for the sake of suffering. There is a message encoded in the struggle, but it can only be read by those who are willing to slow down, zoom out, and interpret what's really going on. So the next time you hit resistance, don't rush to eliminate it. Pause. Study it. Unpack it. Ask, what is this trying to produce in me? What is this preparing me for that I can't yet see? Because while others are running from their problems, you'll be decoding your future. He watched them sprint ahead, loud, confident, certain they were winning. They posted the wins, flashed the moves, celebrated the early results, and for a while, it looked like they were right. Fast meant progress, speed looked like success, but months passed, then years, and slowly, quietly, they started to fade, burnt out, off track, distracted. Meanwhile, the one they overlooked, the one who moved slowly, but intentionally, kept showing up, kept building, kept aligning, and when the dust settled, the one they once ignored had everything they were chasing. Because in the real game of life, positioning is more powerful than speed. Everyone's in a rush to succeed, to prove something, to get there first. But what's the point of being first if you're in the wrong place? What's the value of speed if it takes you off course? See, life isn't about how fast you move, it's about where you land. Strategic thinkers don't chase pace. They chase position. Because they know if I'm in the right place, with the right mindset, at the right time, opportunity will find me. They understand that it's not the quantity of moves you make, it's the quality of the ones you choose. Think about a chessboard. The game isn't won by who moves first. It's won by who understands position, who sees how one small step can open 10 new doors, who knows when to hold, when to wait, and when to strike. And that's where most people miss it. They confuse motion with progress. They chase noise instead of mastery. They run into things just to say they're doing something. But strategy doesn't panic. It prepares. It studies the terrain, the players, the timing. Because when you're positioned right, you don't need to fight for every win. The win meets you where you are. There's power in patience, but only when that patience is strategic. It's not about sitting still. It's about moving with intention, about understanding your unique edge, your moment, your lane. Because if you're in the wrong lane, it doesn't matter how fast you're going, you'll still end up in the wrong destination. Some of the most successful people in the world were underestimated because they didn't race. They were overlooked because they didn't shout. But when their time came, they were ready, positioned, aligned, prepared. While others were spinning in circles, they were building deep roots. Roots that don't shake when the pressure comes. So, ask yourself, not how fast can I go, but where am I placing myself? Am I showing up where my growth is happening? Am I aligning with the right people, the right environments, the right challenges? Because when you're positioned with precision, speed becomes irrelevant. The spotlight will find you, the breakthrough will reach you, the reward will chase you. Oh, go on, sing. All because you knew what most people forget. The race isn't always to the swift, but to the one who understands exactly where to stand. They told you to follow your heart, to go with your gut, to do what feels right. And while there's truth in that, here's what they didn't tell you. Feelings can lie. Emotions, powerful as they are, can be misleading. They can pull you into battles that don't belong to you, make you defend things that don't matter, and push you to react when the smartest move is silence. Emotion without strategy leads to exhaustion. You've felt it before, the crash that comes after the outburst, the regret that follows a quick decision made in anger or fear. That sinking feeling when you realize you gave too much energy to something that didn't deserve it. That's not weakness. That's what happens when you let emotion lead without a map, when reaction becomes your rhythm. Strategic thinkers aren't emotionless, they're emotionally disciplined. They feel deeply, but they don't let those feelings drive the wheel. They've learned to pause, to breathe, to analyze. They've trained themselves to respond with intention, not impulse, because they know that emotional chaos creates strategic blindness. And when you can't see clearly, you make poor moves. Think about it. How many opportunities have been lost because someone took something personal that wasn't? How many relationships have been damaged because someone couldn't control their temper in the moment? How many people stay stuck, not because they're incapable, but because they're drained mentally, emotionally, by the weight of battles they never needed to fight? When your energy is always on high alert, you're constantly in survival mode. You're jumping from fire to fire, trying to put everything out, trying to prove yourself, trying to defend your value. But what if you didn't have to fight so hard? What if half the war you're in isn't even real? It's just emotional noise that you've mistaken for truth. That's where strategy steps in. Strategy says, pause. What's the real issue here? Is this my battle or a distraction? Is this worth my energy or just a test of my discipline? Strategic thinkers don't let every offense become an argument. They don't need to clap back, to react, to prove they're right. They're playing a longer game. They know that the emotional high might feel good for a moment, but it costs clarity. And clarity is currency when you're building something bigger than your feelings. So the work isn't to stop feeling, it's to start filtering. And see? Filter what deserves your attention. Filter what deserves your voice. Filter what actually matters to your mission. Because not every situation requires your fire, some require your silence. Not every tension needs a response, some need a redirection. And not every enemy is worth your energy. Some are just distractions dressed as challenges. There's a kind of strength that looks like restraint. A kind of power that isn't loud but unshakable. It's the strength of someone who knows their worth, who doesn't panic, who isn't moved by every wave of emotion. That's not cold, that's clarity. And clarity wins where chaos burns out. The next time your emotions try to hijack your focus, ask yourself, am I reacting to defend my feelings or responding to protect my future? Because if the move doesn't serve your purpose, it's not worth your energy. There's a reason most people give up halfway. Not because they lack potential, not because they don't want it bad enough, but because their vision isn't big enough to keep them grounded when everything feels uncertain. The truth is, when your eyes are fixed only on what's in front of you, today's pressure, today's problem, today's pain, it's easy to break. It's easy to say, maybe this isn't for me, or maybe I'm not ready. But long-term vision creates short-term discipline. When you know where you're going, you stop getting distracted by everything that's trying to pull you off course. You stop falling for temporary comforts. You stop needing constant motivation because now you have direction. And direction is what keeps you going when motivation fades. Most people live from moment to moment. They live by how they feel, not by what they've decided. And so when the feelings shift, as they always do, the commitment fades. But when your vision is long-term, your discipline doesn't depend on emotion. It's anchored in purpose. It's not about how you feel today. It's about who you're becoming tomorrow. That's why vision matters. Not just as a dream, but as a compass. Something strong enough to pull you through discomfort. Something clear enough to remind you that the process is necessary, even when it's painful. Because discipline without vision feels like punishment. But discipline with vision feels like preparation. You don't wake up early, train harder, think sharper, or move in silence for applause. You do it because there's something in your future that's worth sacrificing for. And that picture of what could be, what will be, is more real to you than whatever setback you're facing right now. The long-term vision isn't just about dreaming big, it's about zooming out when life tries to trap you in the now. It's about seeing beyond the pressure of this week, this delay, this disappointment. Because the bigger your vision, the smaller your distractions become. Things that once triggered you no longer matter. People who once shook your confidence no longer have access. Your boundaries get stronger. Your focus gets sharper. Your time gets more valuable. That's why strategic people are often misunderstood. They don't say yes to every opportunity. They don't react to every invitation to prove themselves. They're not everywhere doing everything because they know exactly where they're headed, and anything that doesn't align becomes noise. And here's the beautiful paradox. The stronger your long-term vision, the more power you have in every small daily decision. It's not about the big flashy moves. It's about the quiet, consistent ones, the ones no one sees, the early mornings, the late nights, the things you choose to say no to, the self-restraint you practice when no one's watching. Those small daily disciplines, they stack quietly, powerfully. And before you know it, the very things you thought were sacrifices become second nature. Because vision transforms behavior. You don't need to be pushed when you know where you're going. You start pulling yourself forward every single day. So when the pressure hits and you feel like quitting, zoom out. See the whole picture. Remember why you started. Because vision doesn't just inspire you, it disciplines you. And discipline is what turns a wish into a win. So now you know this life, this journey, this battle you're in, it's not about being the fastest, the loudest, or the most impressive. It's about being strategic. It's about thinking beyond the moment. It's about learning to anticipate, decode, position, control your emotional energy, and anchor your daily grind in a vision so powerful that quitting isn't even an option. You are not here to survive the chaos. You are here to outsmart it. You are not just another player in this game. You are the one who rewrites the rules. Every setback you face, every delay, every disappointment, it wasn't there to destroy you. It was training. Quiet, painful, but intentional training for the level you are about to step into. From this moment forward, no more impulsive decisions, no more giving energy to things that don't grow you, no more rushing without direction. You now move with clarity, with purpose, with unshakable discipline. Because your future isn't something you're waiting on, it's something you're positioning yourself for. So go ahead. Let them underestimate you. Let them think you're too quiet, too slow, too different. Smile. Stay focused. Because while they chase noise, you're building legacy. Now take everything you've heard today, every principle, every insight, and don't just think about it, apply it. Let it shape the way you think, the way you plan, the way you rise. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs more people like you, strategic, focused, and unstoppable. Good luck on your journey. Stay sharp, stay grounded, and never stop growing. Thank you.